Good morning everyone. My name is Abhay Singh and I welcome you all in today's video analysis of the Hindu. Today is 20th of September 2024 and we will start with the first major news headline for the day. So basically again we are focusing on the state of West Bengal where the protesting doctors have called off their strike after the government of after the state government of West Bengal have promised to make certain kind of reforms. So after this particular promise was made by the government, the doctors have called off their strike and they have resumed their duty. So this strike was a long and this strike was going on for a very long period after the unfortunate event which took place on 9th of August 2024. So basically after 40 days this particular strike was called off by the protesting doctors. So this is a kind of good news, not this is a kind of actually a kind of good news because the protesting doctors got most of the things that they were demanding. So this was the first news. Now we'll move to the second important news headline for the day. So again, this particular news headline is not that much important for us because of a similar reason that it is a political news. And this particular statement is given by the Prime Minister of this country, Mr. Narendra Modi, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir, after the huge huge voter turnout in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, there was approximately 61.17%. I'm not sure, but it was around 62% voting in the first phase. So the elections were taking place in Jammu and Kashmir exactly after 10 years. So this is a kind of a positive news for the people who are living in Jammu and Kashmir, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir or the voters of Jammu and Kashmir are participating in such a number in the biggest festival of the democracy. So this is one important news that you have to keep in your mind. Now we are moving to the second important news headline for the day. Today, no, the newspaper of 20th of September 2024 does not have a lot of information inside it. There are only few important topics that have been dealt by the Hindu today. So we will be covering only those aspects of today's newspaper and rest we will leave everything. Again, this is a kind of a political news. Bureaucracy-led governance replaced with people's representative-led governance, where this newly elected Chief Minister, Mr. Mohan Manjhi, is criticizing the former Chief Minister and the former political party which was ruling the state of Odisha. That is, the former Chief Minister is Mr. Naveen Patnaik and the party is Biju Janata Dal. So this is again a political news. This is not important for us. Again, this is all political. I request you everybody that this is all political. Do not pay heed to these news items because they will not fetch you a single marks and they will also not help you. They will also not help you in growing your psychology and also not growing your and developing your mind. So you can skip these news items. These are extremely irrelevant for your examinations. Now we are moving into the editorial sector of today's newspaper, and in the editorial sector as well, the articles which have been discussed are of not great importance. But again, the first article is of great importance, that is India's place in Russia-Ukraine peacemaking. And the title of the second article is acclamation of an Indian leadership that is still endures. So these are the two important editorials of today's newspaper. First editorial is really important because it basically, the first editorial is mainly focusing on India's role in in establishing peace between the Russia and Ukraine. So this is one important news that we have to cover. So let's start with the first paragraph itself. We won't be covering this particular news item para by para, but we will cover this particular news item in detail. All the events which are taking place after the current prime minister have assumed the charges for the third straight term. So there have been a lot of international travels and visits by the country, and not only by the prime minister, but a lot of visits by the external affairs minister. Then we have national security advisor Mr. Ajit Doval. So there have been a lot of international travel, and this international travel is of great importance for India for a very valid reason that India can play an important role. India can play a very important role in establishing peace between Russia and Ukraine, And this particular war between Russia and Ukraine is going on for last 29 last last 31 months. So this is the high time that both these countries, Russia and Ukraine, should end this particular war, and they should establish peace amongst them. So let's start. So 2 years after the government of India held that Europe's problem are not the world's problem. So this is a very famous statement which was given by the External Affairs Minister of India, Mr. S. Jaishankar, that Europe's problem are not the world's problem. To distance New Delhi from the theater of the Russia-Ukraine war, speculation about its determination to help resolve the war has gained traction. So after giving this particular statement a long back that Europe's problem are not the world's problem, now India is in a position and India is in a position that it can play a very huge role in solving this particular problem. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited state of Russia in the month of July, and then again after that particular visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Ukraine in the month of August. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the state of Ukraine in the month of August, and after that particular visit, our national security advisor visited Russia and briefed about the happenings and brief about the events which took place while Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit during Ukraine. And not only Mr. Ajit Doval, but Narendra Modi, but the Prime Minister himself briefed about the development and about the conversation that took place in Ukraine. So India is going to play an important role, and the reason is that India is not standing with any country. The reason why we are able to play such a role, that we are not standing with any country. We are doing all the things which a country should have done. We are maintaining our good relations with Russia as well. We are not interfering, or we are not seconding the opinions of Ukraine. So India have maintained a very bold and balanced approach during this wartime, and this bold approach and this approach of maintaining equilibrium is kind of helping India after 31 after adopting this particular approach for 31 months. Now this particular approach is ripening and providing benefits to India, that India is in a position from where it can eradicate, or it can end this particular war. Now we are moving into the next important article, that India is actually an important voice for the global south, and it succeeded in ensuring its G20 presidency focused on war outcomes such as energy and food security that matters to the developing world rather than the war itself. So while India has hosted, or India had hosted the G20 summit last year in Bharat Mandapam. So while hosting this particular summit, India has raised certain important issues, and those issues are basically related to the मेनली वॉर फोकस्ड आउटकम. एक वॉर के खत्म होने पे या ड्यूरिंग द वॉर क्या क्या आउटकम्स होते हैं और उनका डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है, दैट वाज समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट which have been discussed, which was discussed during the G20 summit, which was hosted by India last year. Now we have one important word that we have to discuss, and that important word is basically schism. Now what do we understand by schism? Rift, division, or split. So basically, if you are creating a divide, if you are splitting, or if you are creating a rift, then you can use a synonymous word for these three words, that is schism. SCHISM. Now we are moving into the next important aspect. और एक चीज याद रखिएगा, इंडिया, दिस इज द हाई टाइम, और ये जो पर्टिकुलर वॉर है, दिस विल गिव इंडिया चांस टू बिकम अ विश्व गुरु. हमारे पास एक मौका है कि हम विश्व गुरु वाली जो अपनी इमेज क्रिएट कर रहे थे, उस इमेज को हम इस्टेब्लिश करें. बिकॉज इफ इंडिया प्लेज अ रोल इन स्टॉपिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर वॉर बिटवीन रशिया एंड यूक्रेन, फिर एक चीज आप लोग मान लीजिए, दिस इज गोइंग टू बी द बिगेस्ट अचीवमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इन द लास्ट 10 to 12 years. इन रियलिटी दिस इज गोइंग टू बी द बिगेस्ट अचीवमेंट. बट अगेन, अभी ये जो चीज़ हो रही है, अभी ये सारी चीज़ें बातचीत ही हो रही हैं, अभी बहुत इनिशियल लेवल पे टॉक्स हैं, और अभी हम एकदम श्योरिटी के साथ नहीं कह सकते हैं कि साइड या कोई मतलब अभी जो दूसरा एस्पेक्ट है वो क्या होगा. ये सब कॉन्वर्सेशंस कंक्लूड होंगी तब क्या चीज़ें सामने निकल के आएंगी, बिकॉज हमसे पावरफुल बहुत सारी कंट्रीज हैं इस वर्ल्ड में, बट दोज कंट्रीज आर फेवरिंग यूक्रेन. दैट्स व्हाट मेक इंडिया डिफरेंट, that we are not supporting any country. We are not neither we are supporting Russia nor we are supporting Ukraine, though we are purchasing a lot of crude oil and oil from Russia, And West and the United States of America have alleged several times that India is basically funding this particular war. But again, we have a proper defense for this, that we are the most populated country in the world. We are a developing nation, and this is the responsibility of the government, that it should procure resources from the countries where it are available, where it are available at the cheap rates, because we have to keep into the account, we have to keep into this particular the individual interest and national interest into the account. We have to take this particular thing into the account. So again, India is going to play a very important role, and during this BRICS summit, then again the Prime Minister visited Russia. Then Mr. S. Jaishankar, our Honorable External Affairs Minister, he met with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Russia, and there have been a lot of meetings that are going all around the country. Anywhere there is a some international summit, on the sidelines of that particular international summit, the leaders of the political leaders of India will meet, or the national security advisor of India will meet, with the leaders of other countries, just to make sure that India is able to put a lot of pressure. India is able to put a lot of pressure on both the countries, and not pressure in not a negative way. This is a kind of pressure which is needed to make them understand that why you need to stop this particular war. Now, the role of United States of America is also going to be very big, because after acquiring a specific area in Russian territory, and the name of that particular area was Kursk. कर्स्क एक रीजन है रशिया में. अब इस रीजन के कुछ एक पार्ट को यूक्रेन ने अक्वायर किया अब इस ड्यूरिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर वॉर. सो दैट वाज अ काइंड ऑफ अ morale booster for Ukraine. But again, we have to understand that despite of getting all this possible support from United States of America and European countries, Ukraine is not able to, cause a lot of damage on Russia. And Russia is basically fighting this particular war for last 31 months, and it seems like that Russia is unaffected with this particular war. So that is the thing that both Russia and Ukraine have to understand, that Russia is very very powerful, and West and the entire United States of America is not going to support the Ukraine for a very long period of time. The reason is, so after Ukraine acquired this specific region in Russia, the Russian territory. Uh, Mr. Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, are demanding two special kind of weapons, that are the long-range Storm Shadow missiles and the Army Tactical Missile System. So ATASM and this long-range Storm Shadow missiles were demanded by the Ukraine, and when these demands were made, the stand of Russia is very clear, that if these demands were fulfilled, then Russia will assume that this is a declaration of war between the NATO countries and Russia. So this particular step and this particular demand must be taken into consideration, because at the end of the day, a lot of people will lose their life if this particular war broke out, if United States of America or West supplies this particular uh, if Russia, if Ukraine gets these particular lethal weapons, then again the whole country or the whole world have to see the effect of the same. Now, another important thing that is going to take place while this war is going on. The very important event is going to take place on November 5 in United States of America, the US presidential elections. Now, everybody knows the stand is very clear. If Donald Trump comes into power, then he will stop the funding which is given to the Ukraine. He will stop the financial assistance which is being provided to Ukraine. And if Kamala Harris will become the president of United States of America, then she will keep on providing the financial assistance. Now, for this specific reason also, this particular presidential elections becomes very very important, because the stand of Donald Trump is very very clear, that he is not in the favor of this particular war, and actually what he wants is that people should stop dying in this particular war. Now we are moving into the some last aspect, and we will discuss one important document which was released during the Ukraine peace summit, which took place at Bergenstock Resort in Switzerland. So this we will discuss few important fact about this particular documents as well. So let's discuss this specific paragraph in a bit detail. Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky have rejected each other's proposal that involves giving up territory on the ground. Mr. Putin rejected the Bergenstock communique that India also disassociated from, which dwelt on the issue of nuclear safety, humanitarian access, and the exchange of prisoners. So basically, both the countries, that is, Russia and Ukraine, have denied proposals of each other. They are not accepting term and conditions of each other. And also, Mr. Putin, who is the president of USS of Russia, Mr. Putin is the president of Russia, has also rejected the Bergenstock communique, which was released during the Ukraine peace summit. And this Bergenstock communique is very, very important. Now let's understand few important facts about this Bergenstock communique. What were the important features of the Bergenstock communique? So we will be discussing only one and first and second point of this Bergenstock communique. The reason is very simple. Each and everything is not important for us to understand under this joint communique, and the newspaper is basically focusing on point number 1 and point number 2. Now, firstly, the first point which was given in this joint communique was: first, any use of nuclear energy and nuclear installation must be safe, secured, and safeguarded and environmentally sound. Ukrainian nuclear power plants and installations, including Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, must operate safely and secure under full sovereign control of Ukraine and in line with IAEA principles, International Atomic Energy Agency. So IAEA stands for International Atomic Energy Agency. So the first important thing which were discussed in this particular joint communique, कि रशिया और यूक्रेन एक दूसरे के कंट्री में जो न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट्स एंड इंस्टॉलेशंस हैं उन पर अटैक नहीं करेंगे और उनकी सोवरेनिटी को भी पूरा एक्सेप्ट करेंगे, कि इस पर्टिकुलर जो ये न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट है इस पर हमें अटैक नहीं करना, बिकॉज इट विल कॉज अ लॉट ऑफ डैमेज. Now, this global food security depends on uninterrupted manufacturing and supply of food products. So basically, this particular war is not a good thing, but again, the countries who are fighting war have to make sure that there is an uninterrupted supply of food products all around the world. They should not create situations like situations in the transportation methods, जिससे हम जो गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज को क्या करते हैं, ये फूड प्रोडक्ट्स को हम क्या करते हैं, एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट करते हैं और एक दूसरे कंट्रीज में बहुत इजीली पहुंचाते हैं. सो दीज आर द टू इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द जॉइंट कम्युनिके जो रिलीज़ किया गया था यूक्रेन पीस सबमिट के टाइम पे. और फिर एक वॉर क्रिमिनल्स को लेकर के है कि वॉर क्रिमिनल्स को रिलीज़ किया जाएगा और उससे भी रिलेटेड चीज़ें हैं. तो ये सारी चीज़ें हैं जो जॉइंट कम्युनिके से रिलेटेड हैं और फिर उसमें न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स को लेकर के भी कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें डिस्कस की गई हैं. सो दीज आर द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग्स अबाउट दिस बर्गिंस्टॉक कम्युनिके. अब समिंग अप इंडियाज पोजीशन इन बर्लिन लास्ट वीक, मिस्टर जयशंकर लिस्टेड अ 4-point principle. So this particular 4-point principle was laid down by India. और ये 4-point principle क्या था, जिसे इंडिया के एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर मिस्टर एस जयशंकर ने सजेस्ट किया है. दिस इज नॉट द एरा ऑफ वॉर, देयर आर नो सॉल्यूशंस ऑन द बैटलफील्ड. रशिया मस्ट बी एट द टेबल फॉर टॉक्स एंड इंडिया इज कंसर्न्ड एंड एंगेज्ड टू फाइंड अ रेजोल्यूशन टू द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. So these are the four point principles which have been given by the external affairs minister Mr. S. Jaishankar कि ये 4 तरीके हैं इस वॉर को रोकने के लिए. इन्हें हम we can choose them, we can opt them. Then Mr. Zelensky told Mr. Modi that India is simply too large and an important country to seek a role as a messenger between Moscow and Kyiv. So again, everybody knows that we are such a big country, the kind of influence that Narendra Modi have. Those are, I'm not supporting any political party, but that is a fact, that kind of influence Narendra Modi is having on the international politics. He is kind of utilizing that, but or incentivizing the power of his image to end this particular war. और अभी एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है कि हम कितना कंसिस्टेंटली इस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम को फॉलो करते हैं, हम कितना कंसिस्टेंटली डेडिकेटेड तरीके से इस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम को फॉलो करते हैं, बिकॉज बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरनेशनल ट्रैवल हुआ है पिछले 3rd टर्म में आने के बाद से. और उसके बाद कुछ और इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं कि हमारे कंट्री के कुछ इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स भी हैं जिन पर अभी गवर्नमेंट उतना, ऐसा लग रहा है लोगों को, या ऐसा शायद इन रियलिटी इन प्रैक्टिकलिटी भी वैसा हो कि बहुत ज़्यादा जो गवर्नमेंट का फोकस है वो मणिपुर की तरफ नहीं है। प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी ने अभी तक कोई एक ओपन स्टेटमेंट नहीं दिया, उन्होंने मणिपुर विजिट करना अच्छा नहीं समझा। सो दीज आर द थिंग्स कि जो इम्पोर्टेंट हैं कि हम हमारे खुद के घर के अंदर लड़ाई लगी हुई, हम उस पर फोकस ना करके हम जो बगल वाला, हमारे बगल के घर में हमारा दोस्त रह रहा है, उसकी जहाँ पे लड़ाई हो रही है, हम उस लड़ाई को ख़त्म करवाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। हम अपने घर के अंदर देख ही नहीं रहे हैं कि क्या हो रहा है। सो मणिपुर इज़ वन सच एग्जाम्पल जो आपको याद रखना है। Now, reviving up the economy through international engagement, regional turbulences, and a host of other important issues, it could justify questions that need to be spent its resources on the of this conflict. फिर इंडिया का एस्पेक्ट, इंडियन एस्पेक्ट से इसराइल और गाजा जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, इसराइल में जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है, that also becomes very very important. And and the most important thing is that a lot of people are losing their life, which is not necessary at all. So that is one thing that you have to understand. This particular article is not important at all in my point of view. This particular article is actually not important. If you want to improve your English, if you want to find some factually rich information, then obviously you can cover this particular article. But again, for examination point of view, for the entrance level examinations, for the college entrance examination, this particular article is not relevant. And why I'm not discussing this particular article, because there's just one example which I want to give, that the exam, the CLAT examination and the ELIT examination is approaching. So I don't want to discuss things which are not important, because at the end of the day, students will invest their time on these news items, and these news items will not fetch them any marks. So they will feel very much disappointed that we have invested our time on the wrong topics. And these are few of the topics जिनको देख के पहले ही पता चल जाता है कि यहाँ से तो सवाल नहीं आएंगे. This is one such topic, and the title for this particular topic is Acclamation for Indian Leadership That Still Endures. So if you want to read it, you can read it, but if you want to skip it, then I won't stop you. You can skip this particular article, because factually it is not rich, and for examination, for entrance examination point of view, this particular article is not important. Now, so with the philosophy, why we will discuss this idea of one nation, one election, and how this particular thing, one nation, one election, will affect the thread of federalism in one video. We will definitely discuss it, because again, this is going to be one historic step that India is going to take. Because if the government is able to implement this policy of one nation, one election, then the entire fate of the country will change. A lot of things will change. The idea of federalism will be affected greatly, and the thread of and the interstate relations will be, no, the center state relations will be affected greatly. And the whole idea of a democracy, this I truly believe this, that when we have such a diverse country, and in such a diverse country, if you are trying to conduct one nation, one election, if you want to implement this particular policy of one nation, one election, then it will definitely affect the principles of democracy, because we have to respect our diversity, and we have to provide choices to the people. And this concept of one nation, one election will diminish each and every kind of choice that is available with the people and the voters of this particular country. So somehow this particular policy of the government, one nation, one election, will affect the principle of federalism. But at the end of the day, uh, it is also necessary, because of the size of our country, because of the voters available in this country, because of the number of elections that are being conducted in this country. So for all these reasons, implementing the policy of one nation, one election becomes very much, very much important as well. So there are both pros and cons of this particular news item. The you know the approach, or the the modus operandi depends on the government and the people of India, that how they will perceive this particular step of the government. So after Mr. Donald Trump, who is the 45th president, who is the 45th president of United States of America, he served as the president of United States of America during 2016 to 2020, and he is running as the presidential. He is running for the presidency of United States of America. So recently, Mr. Donald Trump gave the statement that he will meet with Mr. Narendra Modi between 21 to 23rd of September Now, Mr. Ministry of External Affairs have clarified this particular step that Donald Trump is not on the travel plan of Mr. Narendra Modi, and if there is anything like that, he will definitely meet Mr. Donald Trump. And I personally think that India will not meet, or the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not meet Donald Trump. The reason is very simple, because there are elections in United States of America on 5th of November, and if नरेंद्र मोदी मीन्स डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, अगर नरेंद्र मोदी मिलते हैं डोनाल्ड ट्रंप से, तो इसका इंडिया के जो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका के साथ लॉन्ग टर्म रिलेशंस हैं उन पे बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क पड़ेगा अगर कमला हैरिस इलेक्ट होकर के आती हैं, बिकॉज इंडियन डायस्पोरा जो रह रहा है यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका में, दैट इज़ क्वाइट बिग, और दे हैव दिस पर्टिकुलर पावर कि वो बहुत सारे सीट्स पे जो इलेक्शंस होंगे उनको इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकते हैं. सो अगर नरेंद्र मोदी मिलते हैं ना डोनाल्ड ट्रंप से, तो एक मैसेज, इनडायरेक्ट मैसेज तो एक ऐसा जाएगा ही कि मतलब इंडिया इज इन द फेवर ऑफ डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, नॉट कमला हैरिस. सो फॉर दैट स्पेसिफिक रीजन आई थिंक नरेंद्र मोदी विल नॉट मीट, और नरेंद्र मोदी शुड नॉट मीट. नरेंद्र मोदी को नहीं मिलना चाहिए एट दिस मोमेंट, बिकॉज लॉन्ग टर्म में ये चीज़ें हमें अफेक्ट करेंगी. और सेकेंडली, we are on the verge of becoming a Vishwaguru. We are on the verge of stopping the war between between Russia and Ukraine. So for that specific reason as well, हमें नहीं मिलना चाहिए. Now there was a resolution in United Nations which was brought by the United Nations General Assembly, and this particular resolution was basically related to that Israel has to vacate Palestinian territories on the basis of an opinion by the International Court of Justice, and for vacating the Palestinian territory, Israel have 12 months. So there was this resolution which was brought by the United Nations General Assembly, and this particular resolution was entertained by 181 people, 181 member states, and out of this 181 member states, 124 countries were in the favor. 124 countries were in the favor of this particular resolution, while India have abstained itself from uh, giving any opinion on this resolution. So that not only India, there were 43 countries who have basically refused or abstained from this particular resolution, and there were 12 countries which were not in the favor of this particular resolution. So the ratio was very clear that out of 181 member states, 124 member states were in the favor of this particular resolution, which states that Israel has to vacate the territory of Palestine. Israel has to vacate Palestinian territory in the next 12 months, as per the decision which was as per the decision of International Court of Justice. So our stand is again very clear, and I love this bold approach of current government when it comes to international politics. When it comes to national politics, then again they need a lesson on that. But again, when it comes to international politics, it's a kind of big. इंडिया इज प्लेइंग वेरी वेरी बिग, और हम लोग अगर, आई ट्रूली बिलीव दैट जैसा अप्रोच, जितना बोल्ड अप्रोच इंडिया का अभी है, बाय 2047 इंडिया विल डेफिनेटली बिकम द सुपर पावर. इट विल बी वन ऑफ द सुपर पावर्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. और हम साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में, साउथ एशिया में हमारा ठीक ठाक मतलब जो होल्ड होगा वो ठीक ठाक होगा. सो इस पर्टिकुलर रीजन की वजह से आई अप्रिशिएट दिस पर्टिकुलर अप्रोच ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. और ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने क्रिटिसाइज नहीं किया, हमें जहाँ पे स्टैंड लेना होता है वी टेक फर्म स्टैंड. बट अगेन currently the politics is going in the best possible way. Now Pasmanda Muslims group Waqf bill, so there is a specific type of followers of Islam जिन्हें हम पसमंदा मुस्लिम कहते हैं. उन्होंने वक्फ अमेंडमेंट बिल 2024 को सपोर्ट किया है. तो दिस इज़ वन इम्पॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ दैट यू हैव टू कीप इन योर माइंड. Now this is this is a kind of very sad news that is coming from Bihar, and there was in Navada district 34 घरों में आग लगा दी गई. 34 हाउसेस जो थे दलित्स के, उनमें आग लगा दी गई, and for a very small property dispute. So this is the thing that we have to understand, that रशिया यूक्रेन का वॉर रुकवाने से चीज़ें ठीक नहीं होंगी, और रशिया यूक्रेन का वॉर रुकवा देने से ये जो चीज़ें हो रही हैं इन पर कोई बहुत ज़्यादा पॉजिटिव असर नहीं पड़ेगा. अगेन हमारा बातचीत मतलब हमारा अप्रोच बहुत डिफरेंट है हमारे कंट्री का लोग चीज़ों को लेकर के, ऐसा लग रहा है कि इंडिया इज एक्टिंग लाइक अ स्टूडेंट जिसके पास कई बार थोड़ा सा नॉलेज किन्हीं पॉइंट्स पे बहुत कम होती है बट वो उन पॉइंट्स पे बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सप्रेसिव होता है. दैट इज़ व्हाट इंडिया इज डूइंग. Now we will be skipping all these news items. Not important, not important. If you want to read it, you can give it a read. But again, this if you want to give it a read, you can give it a read. But again, I would suggest कि अभी एग्ज़ाम में टाइम थोड़ा सा कम है, तो जो चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट हैं एग्ज़ाम के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आप उनको पढ़िए. अभी ज़्यादा नॉलेज के लिए मत सोचिए कि मैं नॉलेज ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा गेन कर लेता हूँ. बट क्योंकि नॉलेज गेन करने के लिए आपके पास पूरी ज़िंदगी पड़ी हुई है और एग्ज़ाम निकालने के लिए सिर्फ 70 दिन बचे हैं आपके पास. सो थोड़ा सा लॉजिक और कॉमन सेंस यूज़ करिए. That will help you in the best possible way. Again, this judgment is not important. This is related to the telecom sector. This judgment is not as important as you think. So this we can skip this particular news items also. और आज का today's newspaper was very boring. मतलब मैं पढ़ रहा था आज का newspaper. It was so boring. That but again it is my job to read this newspaper. तो मुझे पढ़ना पड़ा. But again तो आज का newspaper सच में it was way too boring. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें नहीं थी आज के न्यूज़पेपर में. जर्मनी ने एक्स्ट्रा $400 मिलियन का फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस प्रोवाइड किया है यूक्रेन को 2024 में. और यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका टोटल 7.5 बिलियन यूरोस की जो है फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस प्रोवाइड कर चुका है अभी तक यूरोप को, यूक्रेन को. सो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अब जब ये पेजर अटैक हुए थे लेबनान में हिजबुल्ला से, उसके बाद बेसिकली चीज़ें थोड़ा सा एस्केलेट हुई हैं. इसराइल ने उसके बाद हिजबुल्ला पे फिर से रॉकेट लॉन्च स्टार्ट कर दिया. और पेजर अटैक वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज इसमें साइमल्टेनियसली एक साथ 5,000 लोगों पे अटैक हुआ और इसमें से कुछ 2800 लोग जो थे वो सीधे इंजर्ड हुए और 12% जो थे वो उनकी जान चली गई. सो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड द नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ इज़ कमिंग फ्रॉम Washington DC because tomorrow मच एंटिसिपेटेड एंड मच अवेटेड क्वाड समिट है. और इस क्वाड समिट से पहले यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका का एक बहुत ही मेजर स्टेटमेंट आया दैट चाइना विल बी हाई ऑन क्वाड समिट एजेंडा. चाइना विल बी हाई ऑन क्वाड समिट एजेंडा. सो चाइना इज़ नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द क्वाड समिट. चाइना क्वाड के सिर्फ 4 कंट्रीज पार्ट हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, देन वी हैव इंडिया, देन वी हैव जापान, देन वी हैव United States of America. But with the rising power of China, with the rising strength of China, China has become a center of attraction for each and every country all around the world. So US have given the statement that China will be high on Quad Summit agenda. So let it be. हम देखेंगे इंडिया के लिए और क्या क्या चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट हैं और रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो अगेन स्पोर्ट्स सेक्शन में इतना कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. कल बांग्लादेश और इंडिया के बीच जो टेस्ट मैच था वो स्टार्ट हो गया. उस टेस्ट मैच में फर्स्ट इनिंग में रविचंद्रन अश्विन ने एक सेंचुरी लगाई है. सो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नो दैट इज़ नॉट अ काइंड ऑफ लाइक एग्जामिनेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ से इट इज़ नॉट अ इम्पॉर्टेंट न्यूज. बट अगेन यस, हाँ चीज़ तो मतलब ये न्यूज़ तो इम्पॉर्टेंट है. मतलब फॉर इफ यू आर ए स्पोर्ट्स फैन तो आपके लिए आपको ये न्यूज़ थोड़ा सा एक्साइट कर सकती है. सो विद दिस वी हैव बेसिकली कंप्लीटेड द न्यूज़ एनालिसिस ऑफ 20th of September 2024. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें नहीं थी हमारे पास आज डिस्कस करने के लिए आज के न्यूज़पेपर में, जो हम इतने टाइम से डिस्कस करते हुए आ रहे थे. तो आज के न्यूज़पेपर एनालिसिस का जो ड्यूरेशन है वो बहुत कम है. द रीज़न इज़ वेरी सिंपल, क्योंकि आज के न्यूज़पेपर में बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें डिस्कस नहीं की गई हैं. फिर भी अगर आपका कोई डाउट होता है यू कैन पंच इन योर क्वेश्चंस इन द कमेंट सेक्शन ऑफ द वीडियो. एंड टिल देन बाय बाय, टेक केयर. एंड इज टू अंडरस्टैंड वन थिंग, all this take a lot of effort. So if you are liking this particular video, then if you are if you find that these videos are important and informative, then you can like this particular video and subscribe to Success Mitra digital channel. Thank you so much for watching today's video analysis. We'll meet you on another session.